Hello YouTube, this is Morgan, Airspeed Prime here at my next Star Wars comic review. This one's going to be for Star Wars Obi-Wan and Anakin, issue number 2. Just came out today. So yeah, this, like I said about part 1, I think this is a really good series and it's shaping up really well. I thought this was a very solid issue number 2. It did it both developed the plot, which wasn't developed all that much in part one, because we just basically came down to the planet, met these two new characters, and kind of ended there with like an incoming threat. This one, we get a better idea about the conflict going on this planet. Some of the mysteries are set up in terms of like why Obi-Wan and Anakin are there in relation to like why these people aren't aware of stuff that's happening in the wider galaxy, like what Jedi are. And then they're also continuing to develop the whole backstory with Anakin and why he's chosen to leave the Jedi Order, and I suppose Palpatine beginning to get into Anakin's head about that sort of thing. So it touches on a little bit of everything that the series has set up so far, and I think it's a good issue. So one thing I actually didn't mention in the first part was the art, and I really like the art in this book. I think it's really well done. There's like one or two panels where like you sort of wish it would be a little bit more clear, but I think overall the quality is super high throughout this series, and I really do like the art. So there's that. So yeah, let's get into talking about the various points throughout this book. So obviously we just met Pran and Kalara at the end of last issue, and obviously they're kind of pointing a gun at Obi-Wan and Anakin. They don't have an idea about what the Jedi are, and they asked him this odd question, are you open or are you closed? And they're like, huh? What are you talking about? And basically, like on the first page, you get Obi-Wan about to get past the situation by doing a Jedi mind trick on Pran, and it's working, like, except they're all snapped out of concentration by the arrival of this airship incoming that's firing on them. So it just goes to show that, okay, the people on this planet, they are not like immune to Force suggestion. It's not that they're weak-minded, it's just that they can be influenced by the Force. But yeah, and then Pran and Kalara basically escape. They know what this ship is. They say that this ship is part of the Closed, and they say those devils, they still had an air gun left. And basically they're planning to kill the two Jedi and leave, but surprisingly to them, Anakin and Obi-Wan kind of jump into action. Obi-Wan specifically like jumps up, and they're all like, he's gonna go get himself killed and like stuff like that because the Closed are terrible people. But Anakin's just like, I doubt it. That was my master, Obi-Wan Kenobi. There's no one better. And you get this like this awesome moment of like Obi-Wan just on his own confronting this giant airship, or air gun as they seem to call it here. And what he does is he actually throws his lightsaber at it to damage it, which is not a technique we often see like light side users use. It's much more used in like it's not really used like ever. Like it's mainly used in canon by dark side users, but I suppose it doesn't make it's not like wrong that a light side user uses it. It makes sense to close the distance here, but yeah, pretty cool, awesome thing where he just throws it, damages it enough, makes the air gun crash, and just casually walks off and Force grabbing his lightsaber back. But as the ship is crashing, a man jumps out of it, and Anakin catches him. And then Pran and Kalara reveal that this guy is one of the worst of the Closed, and that his name is Grecker, Greckeor, and they really want to kill him. But Anakin is obviously stepping in between them, and they're both pointing guns at each other. They both have two guns each, and Anakin just asks Obi-Wan, "Can I do it?" And he says yes. And what Anakin does here is just uses the lightsaber that Obi-Wan had to give back to him just prior to the mission, and completely destroys all of their guns. It's a pretty cool sequence. You just get to see Anakin destroy 4 guns in like a second, and they're all shocked by this. He then Force pulls 2 knives that they have. It just gives you the idea that Pran and Grecker hate each other. They're on opposite sides of this war on this planet, open and closed. Um, and yeah, it's Obi-Wan who pulls the knives away with the Force. And Obi-Wan asks them what the whole reason for this was. Like, why are you so focused on murdering each other? And this is the one little bit of world building about the planet that we kind of get throughout the issue. You get the idea that from the closed perspective, they say that the open destroyed our entire world. They brought up the mists, poisoned our planet with the Celadon Sea. Pran then says he lies. The closed started the war generations back. We all know it no matter what they say. The open are the only ones preventing this planet from falling into complete chaos. So you get this idea that they both obviously have completely differing views on what exactly happened, and stuff like that. So the closed seem to think that the open caused the planet to be the way it is with regards to the kind of poisonous fog they have around the place, and then the open just consider like, no, you were the one who instigated this conflict. But Anakin wants to help, but Obi-Wan says that we've taken their weapons away. Hopefully that will give them a chance to talk about it and potentially get over their issues, because we have to focus on what we're here for, which is different than that. But surprisingly, Grecker calls up to him and basically says, you've killed us, right? We're going to freeze in the mountaintops, and without our weapons to cross the Celadon Sea, we're dead either way. And basically, Obi-Wan eventually says, okay, fine. We will help guide you to safety, and then we'll leave. But it's at this point, Anakin brings up the idea of like, maybe we could do this a little bit better if we repaired the two ships that are crashed here. Obviously, the open ship crashed in the first episode, and the closed ship crashed here. So the idea that they're going for here is that Anakin wants to use the intact parts of both to form this kind of combined open-closed ship, but they're both sides are completely against it. They said, open and closed do not mix, not ever. What you're talking about would be an abomination, and they eventually agree, partly because Anakin reveals why he and Obi-Wan are there. He reveals that someone on this planet sent out a call for Jedi help using special frequencies only are known to our order. We have to find them, do what we can. And Kalara seems shocked by this, a call off planet. And she says that shouldn't be possible. We lost the technology to do that in the early days of the war many generations ago. So you get the idea that this planet has been so badly damaged because of the war that's happened. It's been going on for so long that their technology has actually diminished over time, to the point now where they seem to suggest that either side having one ship left is a big deal. And the idea of them having the technology to send a message off planet is preposterous to them at this stage. So that gives you an idea of just how crazy things are on this planet, how bad the war was, that it reverted this civilization to a lower state of technology. But after this point, after Pran and Grecker kind of find out about this, they seem much more eager to work with Obi-Wan and Anakin, in that despite them seeming so at odds with each other, about to kill each other, they're very kind of like, if you think it can be done, Anakin, and Grecker agrees, I'm willing to try, it's better than walking, and then the other guy just agrees. So it's very interesting. The Obi-Wan and Anakin bring this up later on, but at this point, they're also they have to get these animals away from the wreckage. They call them corpse leeches, and you can see them there. They're very, very kind of terrifying looking creatures. But what Obi-Wan says here is that these beasts are nearly mindless, Anakin. I can feel it. They're merely following their nature. They should not die simply because they crossed our path. Use the Force to send them on their way. And Anakin tries to use the Force to kind of influence them, kind of the Force ability of kind of taming a wild beast. We saw Anakin use it in Attack of the Clones. Obi-Wan, of course, used it in Episode 3. And we've seen it at various other points in like the Clone Wars. So it's a pretty well-known technique. But he tries to calm them down, and it's about to work, but he begins to struggle, and then they attack, and he's kind of forced to kind of behead all of them. So he's about to say basically I'm sorry, and that's when they cut from him just having killed these animals into a flashback where he's kind of you establish that he's struggling with this technique. He says in the flashback on Coruscant, the Jedi Temple, "Sorry, Master, I can't find a way to calm it. All I feel is its rage. It wants to get out to crush, gore, kill." And Obi-Wan just says, it's all right, Anakin. Not all Force abilities come easily to everyone. This is the way we study, why we learn. Skill is the child of patience." And he just says that, I know you're going to stay here as long as you want because you're dedicated, but now is not the time you're going to learn this technique. We have an appointment to keep. And it's at this point that the majority of the rest of the issue is focused on this flashback of basically Anakin and Palpatine's first, one-on-one proper meeting. And it's just a quick back and forth between Palpatine and Obi-Wan basically saying that, like, oh, if you're going to go somewhere, why not bring me as well? Because Anakin's only a Padawan, but Palpatine is kind of set on doing it. Anakin won't be away for too long. He still has much to learn. And where Palpatine brings Anakin is Coruscant subsurface level 2685. And basically, like, it's this really interesting idea where I suppose right now we don't know what the evil intent from Palpatine is, specifically with this scene. But he seems to just teach Anakin about how different things are on the lower levels of Coruscant compared to the upper levels. Anakin's talking about how it's not very safe down here, and that Padawans are rarely, if ever, allowed outside of the temple to explore as they wish. And Palpatine says that, I visit the lower levels all the time. I feel it's my duty. As rare as it is for Padawans to come down here, I believe it's even more unusual for one of these people to make it to the surface. Do you know the rarest resource on Coruscant, my boy? And Anakin says, I'm not sure. Sure. Palpatine just points up and says, sky. That most people who live on these lower levels think that the sun is a myth because they're so low down and can't see any of the sky. And he just talks about how the previous Chancellor Valorum pretended that these people, the lower levels, didn't exist. But he says that it is the darkness that requires the most light. And he just says, when my duties permit, I like to come to this place. I disguise myself, just as I have done today. And then anonymously, I try to do some good. The flashback ends with them both walking into this place called Club Kassakar. And it's a really weird place because it's almost like a cliffhanger ending to the issue, in that I'm not entirely sure what the big deal is about this place and like what specifically good he's doing here. In that, like, it doesn't seem like there's direct sunlight in here or anything like that. So what exactly is going on? I think what Palpatine may be trying to do here is he's trying to tempt Anakin away from the Order by saying that being part of the Jedi Order is restrictive. You can't help the people you want, and you can't go where you want. If you're not part of that order, you can come down here and help all you want. You can go anywhere and help as you wish. So that may be why Anakin wants to leave the Jedi Order. He's frustrated by the restrictions that they have, like kind of Obi-Wan and Anakin discussed in issue 1, that they can only really help once they're mandated by the Senate to do so. But anyway, they cut back after the flashback, and they've cobbled together this airship from bits and pieces of all of the craft lying around. And Obi-Wan and Anakin are talking. He says, you saw that, didn't you? I did, Master. They changed their minds about helping us the moment we told them why we're here. And Obi-Wan's just like, we don't know what it is just yet, but we have to be just happy that for whatever reason they're at peace for the moment. And, there's just, Obi-Wan beginning to think that they're fully safe. And it just ends on a cliffhanger of their ship going over the Celadon Sea, and then below there are these other creatures below. I don't have a clue what species they are. I don't remember seeing a species like this ever before. They look pretty disgusting and kind of terrifying with the giant black eyes and the skin and the teeth the way they are. It's really weird, but I think probably the weakest part of the issue is the cliffhanger ending. It's just like, okay. The way they ended the flashback was a little bit weird, I think, as well, just because you're just like, okay, they're going into a club, but what exactly are they going for here? Admittedly, I may have missed something where what Club Kalaskar actually is, but it just seemed the way they kind of cut off both sides of the story seemed very kind of odd, and there's no real idea about where they're going next. But in general, I did like the learning a little bit more about the open and close, what that conflict is about, what exactly it did to the planet. In that, when in the first issue, we're led to believe that Obi-Wan and Anakin effectively consider the place to be abandoned. Like they're not expecting to encounter any people living there anymore. That they all destroyed each other. But now we know that there are still groups of people left, but they're separated by the open and closed conflict that destroyed the planet and left it in a state of very low technology. And then there's a big mystery in that both sides seem interested in the technology to be able to send a message off world. Now, are they aware of perhaps some other group who have good technology, or are they aware of like one person, or do they just want that technology themselves? And following Obi-Wan and Anakin will get that there for them, and they just won't want to fight it out at the end over who gets the like radio transmitter or whatever it is. I'm not really sure where they're going. There's still a lot to be revealed with regards to the way the planet is. And then the next issue with regards to what's set up is like, okay, we're going to have another fight, I assume, with the indigenous species here, these things that seem to live in the poisonous Celadon Sea or something like that. And that these are clearly the things that Grecker was afraid that they would be killed by if they had to walk through the Celadon Sea without any weapons. But we don't know the full details of what's going on here, so it's very interesting. There's a lot to speculate about for sure. Just regards to like, is any of these sides right with their kind of view on things? Do they even know their own history at this point in time, or is it all a misunderstanding that none of them at this point in time realize why the war started, what each side actually did, and kind of what they're fighting for at this point? Or is it just a historical war that's continuing and no one really has any idea what it was about in the first place? They could do a lot of interesting stuff. What they seem to be doing, though, in terms of the overall course of the story, it being about Obi-Wan and Anakin, is that the main issue is, of course, that Anakin in issue 1 stated that he plans to leave the Jedi Order, and we assume this is kind of his last mission before he fully leaves or something like that. So something on this mission is going to make him kind of change his mind and want to stick around as a Jedi and continue his training. So whatever happens here, it will renew his faith that the Jedi can still help, even if they weren't directly told to help. Like Obi-Wan even is being sucked in a little bit to this situation, even though he was the one who said that we can't help unless we're told to help. But it kind of it's gradually becoming revealed that, you know, these people and their conflict is somewhat related to why they're there in the first place. And there's still the mystery just about what the message was about, like, and that sort of thing. So, definitely a fascinating issue for sure. I was really happy with it. I think issue 1 was a bit better in general, in that this is definitely like a part 2 of a 5-part story, but I'm really excited for next month's issue. So that has been the video. In the comments, let me know your thoughts were on the issue and the review. Other than that, thanks for watching, and bye.